Hello everyone and welcome to yet another edition of the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Christopher Shepard. Thank you guys yet again for tuning in. Today is our final show of the week and it should be a good one. We are 1 week away from the NFL season. To all my folks who follow football, it's an exciting time, so why not start off with a little bit of an early Week 1 betting preview to kick off today's show. Then, for the first time ever, I'm going to be giving you my own personal stardom situm for the start of the NFL season. Very important in terms of setting the tone for your fantasy football season as well. And then we can continue the narrative of our sleepers and busts. We're going to be looking at some running backs in both the busts and sleepers department, and then some wide receivers as well. So that will close out our week. Before we begin with any of that, I do want to remind you before we get right into our show that if you do feel so inclined, please like, follow, and subscribe to the show on the network. Everything you do is greatly appreciated. Also, you guys have been great with this as well, but you must avail yourselves too if you wish to support both me and the network as a whole. Avail yourselves to the many features that YouTube has to offer, what with the super chat, super thanks, and super stickers. It is highly integral that you are a part of the show. It means a lot to me, and also means a lot to those involved at the network as well. So if you do feel so inclined, please consider leaving anything of note in that department. Without further ado, let us jump right into today's show, and let us jump right into a segment that means a lot for the start of the NFL season. Week 1 is almost upon us. In fact, it is a little over 1 week away, but I do want to give you my overall betting preview before, we actually get into the week before. So, talking about week 1, there are a lot of games where either the storyline is centering around a resurgent team, whether there's a really good matchup that we're going to be talking about at the end of this segment that everyone's excited for, or, we're also going to be looking at some teams that I like personally. It's going to be a very interesting betting week in the NFL landscape, and so these are just, in my humble opinion, some games that you should be looking out for as a potential bettor. So let's start off kind of with an interesting game with an interesting storyline. And it's a game that I might, as a bettor myself, be cautious about. But since I'm not a bettor, you guys may be more well equipped to interpret this game in many ways if you want. The Falcons and the Steelers. The Falcons are at home. They're only favored by 3. And the money line for them is minus 142. But when I think about the Steelers, I just don't see how, even though the Falcons only look good on paper, we haven't really seen this offense in full effect on an NFL field just yet. I just don't think that right now the Steelers match up as well on paper or on the field in terms of this game. I think this game is going to be very low scoring as well. Both of these teams are teams that are really testing the waters well with their new looks, both on offense and on defense. But I think the battle is going to be won in the match between this Falcons offense and the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense is what should keep them in this game, but I just think the Falcons offense has enough now where I feel confident that they're able to put up enough points so that their defense also can supplement them. And so, even though, this game could go either way, I feel very comfortable at home for Atlanta in them pulling this one out. I think that the money line is a safer bet than the cover of the spread because, like I said, this is going to be a low-scoring game, and usually low-scoring games don't bode well for people who bet the spread. So, I'm taking the money line here, but it is going to be an interesting game to see because both of these teams have so many question marks, whether it be how this whole Falcons project is going to look or also how the Steelers project on offense is going to look as well, with Russell Wilson being their new QB. But that being said, at this current moment, I'm just more, shall we say, hyped by the Atlanta Falcons right now than I am about the Steelers as an overall team. So that would be my best bet for this game. And then another game of note, the Cardinals and the Bills. A lot of people might not like this game because they think that even though the Cardinals look very promising, they're not going to be a team that's competitive because of their defense. It's going to be siphoning a lot of points. But that's just the reason why I think this game is going to be so exciting to bet on. And I think the Cardinals are going to cover in this game because of their offense, and particularly because of the guy at the quarterback position in Kyler Murray coming back from an ACL injury. He really looked fantastic in the games he started last year, and I think it's going to carry over to this season. Not going to have that much of a wide receiver room outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., but there are guys in that setup that I like. We talked about James Conner throughout the week. I really like the tight end Trey McBride as a red zone threat. So I think this offense is going to be more exciting than people realize. And then when I look at the Bills, I think that their offense, even though they lose a lot of pieces, they lose Stephon Diggs, they lose Gabe Davis, I think it's become more simplified for Josh Allen in terms of the profile of this offense. He's not going to have to force things anymore like he had to do with Stephon Diggs, who was demanding more of him. I think that this offense is made to operate on his kind of tempo now. I think that you look at also the running back room, James Cook, fantastic receiver out of the backfield. I look at Dalton Kincaid, fascinating weapon for them in terms of his intelligence and his route running abilities. And then Keon Coleman also as well. I think that the second round pick for them out of Florida State is going to do very well. That being said, in terms of this game, I could see this being a potential shootout. I think the Cardinals are going to shock the Bills a little bit by starting off pretty well. I think that the tempo of this game, the pace of this game is going to be set very early on. And so at plus, I believe that says 65 here. I hope I'm not wrong. To cover, I think that that is going to be one of the bets of the week and a sneaky bet for all you bettors out there. And then this one, kind of indulging my bias and like for the Seattle Seahawks, as you can see behind me. This one is kind of a bet that is a little bit safer because of the profile and outlook of this game. But what about the Seattle money line minus 225 opening up at home against the Broncos? We've seen this film before. When Russell Wilson left the Broncos and everyone was saying, oh, woe is me in Seattle. We don't know what we have in Geno Smith, and Geno shocking the world. They wrote him off, but he did not write back, winning that game. And now the Broncos return to Lumen Field, where the narrative around them has shifted as well. And the narrative in Seattle has shifted as well with the new head coaching regime. And Mike McDonald, the great defensive mind, the youngest head coach in the NFL right now. The over-under at 41.5. Again, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, much like the one that we saw when Russell Wilson had moved. But this time, I feel like Seattle just has more experience. I know it's weird to say because they have literally no head coaching experience, but at this juncture, they have the experience on the field over a Broncos team that starting Bo Nix really is asking too much of him at this point. They lose Jerry Jeudy, who, again, I wasn't very high on in that Denver Broncos offense, but still was a weapon at the very least. They add Troy Franklin, which could be interesting because Bo Nix and Franklin were teammates at Oregon in college. But the overall profile of the Denver Broncos just doesn't scream like a team that's going to contend right away in week one, especially on the road in one of the toughest stadiums and environments to play in the NFL. And so I feel very comfortable telling you that the Seattle Seahawks money line will hit. And overall, I feel like this game sets up the Seattle Seahawks for early success as well. They are a team that I feel will gain momentum as the season goes on, but it will mean a lot to win this first game at home against the Denver Broncos team that is looking to rebuild in a kind of way. But the last bet, the game that everyone has been talking about, the Chiefs and the Ravens. The AFC Championship game rematch. I believe it's the Monday night game. A lot of hype around this game, especially considering the fact that it will feel more even. But with Mark Andrews on the field for Baltimore, the over-under seems very low for this game, in my humble opinion. 46.5. I could see both teams crossing that 30-point threshold very early on. I think that the Chiefs, let's start with them. They are going to really love the additions of both Marquise Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, and they are going to show what they can do right away with those two speedsters in their offense. It will be almost like Tyreek Hill was never gone. That's how I feel like this Chiefs offense will operate. And then, of course, you have kind of like the quote-unquote code breaker of this whole team in Travis Kelce. As long as he has his high IQ, as long as he knows the fundamentals, and as long as he continues to keep playing, then the Chiefs will be fine with him. And that rapport between him and Mahomes, it separates Patrick Mahomes from other QBs. I think that him, playing out of structure is largely contingent to how Travis Kelce plays. And now that they're starting to build a younger core, I think that Travis Kelce combined, as Tap to Learn, thank you for this information. They're actually kicking off the season on Thursday. Thank you for that update. My mistake. I think that the overall profile of this game, though, all comes down to whether or not Lamar Jackson plays a little bit of a braver game than he did in the AFC Championship game. At the start of the game, you can kind of tell they wanted to come out guns a-blazing, but then they were a little timid at the end of the game. And so I want Lamar Jackson to say, that was not my best game. I want to come out to start the season, get my revenge, prove that we will be a contender in the AFC as well, and ultimately start off on the right foot. But that being said, I am taking the Chiefs' money line in this game at minus 148. They just feel like they have that mentality that will carry them over the edge in so many games. I have them kind of around the 12 to 13 win mark, and this game will be no different. I think they set the tone for the season and for their three-peat bid. I think they're just too focused and honed in on winning in larger goals than just week one, and they'll show that as the season goes on. But that will just about do it for this segment. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Coming next, for the first time ever on our show, we'll be talking about our stardom sit-em situation, my own personal start-sit situation for week one of the NFL season. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
I feel like I'm losing my